This is by far the best dinosaur film ever put to screen. Well, the second best. Welcome back to Movie in the Middle. Today we are talking about Jurassic Park. Do I even need to summarize Jurassic Park for you? Dinosaurs and shirtless Jeff Goldblum. That's it. But of course it does star Sam Neill, Laura Dern, Jeff Goldblum, Richard Attenborough, and Samuel L. Jackson. I almost always forget he's in this movie.
I don't remember asking you a goddamn thing.
So obviously Jurassic World Dominion, the third in the new Jurassic World trilogy, comes out this weekend. So I wanted to go over Jurassic Park, because why not? It's one of the best movies, and I've always wanted to talk about it. This is one of my all-time favorite movies. It is, of course, directed by Steven Spielberg, and honestly, I think that 1993 was his best year for filmmaking, because he made this, and then he made Schindler's List. He was going to make Schindler's List, and somebody said, you're going to be wiped after that one, so do Jurassic Park first. He said, okay, I'll get Jurassic Park out of the way. That's insane. And then he went on to make Schindler's List. And honestly, I go back and forth a lot between mostly this and Raiders of the Lost Ark as my favorite Spielberg movie, but they're definitely both up there, and this may be my favorite Spielberg, just because the more I think about it, every time I watch it, every time I think about watching it as a child, just the wonder of that park, the magic of the movie, the iconicness, it's so good. It's so good. So let's get into it a little bit. You don't mind if I eat some Jell-O, do you? No, I didn't think so. Okay, yeah. So Jurassic Park. So it is one of the... So once again, this was directed by Steven Spielberg. This was 20 years into his prime. It's kind of insane that he made Jaws in 1975, and then 20 years later he was still making Jurassic Park. It's just unfair. But his movies are honestly like candy. Not the Schindler's List necessarily or Saving Private Ryan, but Jurassic Park, E.T., Jaws, Raiders. They're like candy in that they're fun. They're different genres. They're always adventure and fantasy and sci-fi. You can just roll right through them. They're easy to watch, but they're also really well done. Obviously, that's why he's my favorite director. His movies are just so palatable and so much fun, but also so artfully done. And Jurassic Park is no exception. The way that he directs this movie is pretty much like he directs everything else. It's just every shot has so much meaning. There's so much great movement in the camera. I mean, and the characters as well. The way that he directs the actors and all the chemistry between them. I mean, it's just, what else can I say about it? It's just go. You gotta go watch it. It's just, he really had a vision for this movie based on Michael Crichton's book, and I think he carried that out really well to not only be suspenseful and scary, but also kind of wondrous and fun and whimsical. I didn't think that a movie about dinosaurs could be whimsical, but it somehow is. And a huge part of what makes that whimsy for the movie is obviously the music, which, once again, you guessed it, is done by John Williams. His score for Jurassic Park is one of my all-time favorites. I mean, it basically sounds like a lot of his other ones because it's John Williams. He kind of has the same sound for a lot of his movies, but this one, you cannot miss it. I love, again, how he always has two themes. One is a quieter theme, and one is a louder, more exciting theme. And in this one, it's probably the clearest because you have the entering the park theme. And then you have the quieter, more subtle theme. The main theme for this is just so beautiful. It really brings you into it. I mean, it starts out kind of soft, and then it just really goes for it. You get that crescendo, and then just... No, not. Get out of here. This one. That's more like it. But I think the biggest thing that came out of this movie that was like a hallmark for filmmaking and was basically what's most talked about the movie is the visual effects. It was pretty much the first time that they had figured out visual effects to that degree to make the dinosaurs look that much more realistic. Because they were going to use all practical and all puppets. And then they went through the computer and tried to do some things. They ran some tests. I don't know. They were able to come up with these test shots, these kind of just loops of dinosaurs running. And I remember watching a behind the scenes, and the person who was in charge of all the puppets and the practical effects went, "We're out of a job." Because this is it. This is the future of visual effects and doing things that you wouldn't normally be able to do, and basically the CGI. Obviously, this had started more with ILM a little bit, but that was mostly practical effects. This was like pure visual effects, and this was I want to say one of the very first ones that really made like, we're going to be able to do this forever. And the weirdest thing is that this movie was made 30 years ago, and yet it still looks better than half the stuff, probably 80% of the stuff that's made today in terms of CGI. Now, again, that gets into a whole thing, because a lot of CGI is good. You just don't even realize it's CGI because it is that good. We only notice it when it's bad CGI. But all the CGI that we know is supposed to be CGI in this movie is so good. It looks so realistic. And I don't know if that's because at that time, CGI and the visual effects were supposed to be more bland looking, and it just happened to work because dinosaurs are kind of that pale brown gray look. But it also was because they did pair it with practical animatronics for close-up shots, and putting those together, it's so real. It's so realistic, and this was 30 years ago. I mean, they really had it right. Use CGI when you need to, use it sparingly, and then use puppets and animatronics where you have to and where you can, because obviously that has a more realistic texture. So getting into the actual story itself, when I realized that this movie was about the park and it wasn't ever even open, it was just the park before the park, and that's the whole movie, I thought that was the funniest thing. It's kind of like in High School Musical when you realize that there's no musical in the movie. They're just there. The last thing is just the callbacks. There's actually no musical in that movie. Weird, right? But I think that's what actually makes it even more interesting, is because it's only this small group of people, and they have the whole park to themselves, which, first of all, is just so cool. But it makes it that much more suspenseful, because then when the dinosaurs, get out and they run amok, now it's just a couple of people in this gigantic park, and they could be eaten. And like the suspense, who's going to get eaten and how and when, is just amazing, because you never know what's coming, and it's just so good. It's just classic suspense and thrills, but it's also really fun at the same time. And I do love the theme park aesthetic as a whole too, because just that entire setting is so much fun. Because theme parks are like, we love the rides, but honestly, my favorite part of a theme park, depending on the park, is just being in that atmosphere, being in that theme, bringing you into that, which is so cool. And funny enough, talking about this, I went to Universal a couple weeks ago, and we went to the Jurassic Park section as well, and it was just so cool walking through the gates and being there. It works so well because the movie is a park. So when you make a park, it's like you're walking literally into the park, not like into a park based on another movie, but you're literally walking into Jurassic Park. I mean, even especially like the scenes where they're in the gift shop, right? And you see all the merchandise on the wall, and you see all these things that are like actually sold now, as items, like on Amazon or in stores or whatever. And like you see them actually working in the lab, and they're on this ride, and you get to see that the video with the little DNA cartoon guy, which is one of my favorite parts of the movie. It's just so cool because it's like you can actually be there, and you're seeing them actually in this. It's so cool. I can't really explain it, but I love it. Honestly, the entire beginning is just so much fun. And I don't know why, but the beginning actually for me is my favorite part. It might be because there were certain number of movies that when I was a kid, no matter what I was doing during the day, if I knew, oh, Jurassic Park's coming on tonight or Sorcerer's Stone's coming on tonight, those are the movies that I was like, tonight's going to be a fun, good night. I'm going to be able to chill out and watch these movies. And it might have just been the anticipation of watching that then you get to the beginning, you're like, ah, yes, we're watching it. And like the beginning couple of scenes themselves are just the anticipation of getting to the park. It's probably because all of the scenes are so iconic. It's kind of like when I was talking about like Wizard of Oz or Back to the Future, that almost every scene, if not every scene, is an iconic scene that I look forward to. But especially in the beginning, because you have when they first get there, you have the scene where they're talking around the table, and they're all talking about like, is this a good idea? You have the DNA scene. You have the T-Rex. I mean, it's just so good. And all of those scenes are so good because of the dynamic of all the characters. Like every character works so well off of one another. And even though there's only a few of them, like probably like a handful, like 10 of them or something, they all just have their own thing and their own interactions. And I love that so much, especially like Alan and the kids. Steven Spielberg has been very upfront about the fact that he had issues with his dad, and now he's a lot better with his dad. But you can tell that in all of his movies, there is some sort of father figure issue or emphasis on a father figure. And in this one, obviously, Dr. Grant does not want kids. And then for the whole time, he has to babysit these kids. He's like the OG Steve Harrington.
Always the goddamn babysitter.
And just, their bonding and his coming to like really take care of them was great. His dynamic with Malcolm, played by Jeff Goldblum, is great. It's just, I love it so much because he hates him so much. I think everybody hates Malcolm in this one.
I really hate that man.
But the audience doesn't. Because Jeff Goldblum well, I don't even know. There's no words to explain it, but you all know. It's Jeff Goldblum. I mean, he's hilarious. We love him in this movie because he's so quirky and weird.
When you gotta go, you gotta go.
Life, finds a way.
That is one big pile of shit.
Hello?
Yeah, but your scientists were so preoccupied with whether or not they could, they didn't stop to think if they should.
Must go faster.
Here I'm now by myself, talking to myself. That's chaos theory.
Oh, there it is. There it is.
But also, it's kind of sexy. Now, yes, I will admit, Laura Dern is a little dramatic. But she's still a great character because she's badass and she knows what she's doing. I love that about her character. She is one of the top people in her field, which is why she's brought to the island. She does not take shit. I love the part when Hammond is like, maybe I should go, because you're and I'm and she's like, give me the fucking walkie-talkie.
Look,
Come on, let's go.
we can discuss sexism and survival situations when I get back.
But honestly, Hammond may be the best character in this movie only because of his passion. And he's so interesting. He loves the park. He has that whim. It's like he is like Steven Spielberg's muse of, I want everything to just be fun and magical, and I want it to be wondrous. And it's like he poured himself into this character. And Richard Attenborough did an amazing job. And he spared no expense. I could just keep talking about all these characters. I mean, both the kids did an amazing job. I mean, with the Jell-O, and they had that whole scene that they had to do themselves, these kid actors, where they had to, run in the kitchen from the Velociraptors. And they did amazing. I just, I don't even know how old they were. They were probably just, around 10, early teens, depending on the kid. But I think they did a really great job. And then, obviously, Samuel L. Jackson, hold on to your butts. God, this is such a stacked cast. And lastly, this goes without saying, but this movie is hilarious. It's just one of I've kind of mentioned it already with a couple other things, but this movie is hilarious. There's so many good witty lines, again, especially from Jeff Goldblum, but there's so many iconic lines as well that are just so funny.
Are these characters erotica?
And so many visual moments that are just so ridiculous that you can't help but laugh, like a lawyer getting eaten in a bathroom. Honestly, I can't really talk more about the movie without just detailing every single scene and what I love about it. Jurassic Park is amazing. It is one of the most fun, most iconic movies ever made. It did a bunch for the future of filmmaking. It did a bunch for, obviously, the future of just franchises and theme parks and merchandise as a whole. It spawned so many different references and other sequels and rides. It is funny. It is charming. It is scary. And it's so well made. I love Jurassic Park. It may possibly be my favorite Steven Spielberg movie. I have to give Jurassic Park a 4 out of 4, making it my next top shelf movie. But Matt, how can you not have any lows? There's just such a big plot hole right in the middle of the movie. The T-Rex was in a paddock on the ground, and then when they go into the paddock, it's a gigantic... We're not going to talk about it. Shut up. And just real quick, I'm not going to really go into these others as much, but talking about the second and the third, honestly, I think that The Lost World, Jurassic Park, is really underrated. It is obviously, not as good as the first. It's kind of like Back to the Future Part 2 for me in terms of the first is fun and iconic, and I'm going to love that one way more than anything else that comes out after this. But the second one, The Lost World, has a lot of great stuff. And obviously Jeff Goldblum is a little more serious in that one, but he still has a lot of great lines. There's a lot of really interesting stuff that now is actually kind of bleeding into this new Jurassic World that we're going to get. If you haven't seen it, or you haven't seen it in a while, I recommend watching it again because it's a lot better than you remember. Again, it's still not nearly as good as the original Jurassic Park, but it's still really great. And then Jurassic Park 3 is a movie.
Alan!
Nowhere near as good as the other two. But it still has some cool stuff in it. It's not, great, but it did stuff that I was like, yeah, we never actually got that in the other two. Like the pterodactyls. We never really got a pterodactyl attack. Attactals. I think that the third one, while it has a lot of issues and is not nearly as interesting, has a lot of cool stuff. We get Sam Neill back again, and we get the Spinosaurus. And that, honestly, may be the scariest fucking thing out of all three of them. No, it is. It is the scariest. I'll talk more about the Jurassic Worlds when I review the new one, which will probably be after I come back from Ocean City. I'm going on vacation. Yay! So I'll talk briefly about those because I have a lot of thoughts on both of them in varying degrees. And then, obviously, I will talk about Jurassic World Dominion, which I am very excited for now. It's just a couple days away as of me recording this. So we'll see. It's probably not going to be the end of Jurassic Park because, studios can never let anything go anymore. But it seems to be like the epic conclusion, so we'll see. Guys, let me know what you think of Jurassic Park. I mean, not that you can't have any bad thoughts. You're not allowed to have bad thoughts about Jurassic Park. It's illegal. Let me know down in the comments below what you think of Jurassic Park and of all the other ones and all the Jurassic Worlds. Let me know how excited you are for Jurassic World Dominion. And as always, keep your hopes high, your stress low, and remember, hold on to your butts. I'll see you guys later.
That's not funny. That was great.